Transmite en su canal de frecuencia modulada estereofónica multiplex La Voz Radio, desde New Haven, Connecticut, al mundo.
Hello and welcome to ¿Qué pasa? You're listening to Norma Rodriguez Reyes via WNHH 103.5 FM. And if you go to your computer and you put lavozhispanaradio.com, you'll also be able to see us and listen to our interview at the same time. We have here live in our studio audience Reverend Abraham Marsach, may his soul rest in peace. Abraham Hernandez, very good friends, huh? He was a spirit. Yeah, that's right. You were named after him. Yes. He was a spiritual mentor for many years. But Abraham Hernandez is the executive director of the Connecticut chapter of the National Hispanic Christian Leadership Conference, the NHCLC. We're also going to have with us Brian Essiter, RPH, and he's the medical marijuana counselor, and he's also a pharmacist, and he's with Consult Connecticut. What we're going to be talking today is whether marijuana should be legalized or not. And as many of you know, in 2017, it did not pass the legislature of Connecticut, but this time with a large majority Democrats and with our present Governor Lamont supporting legislation, some type of legislation, because all of the different state legislators are getting together, coming up with a bill that can definitely pass. So that's mainly what we're going to be talking about, the two perspectives on whether marijuana should be legalized or not. So, Abraham, can you please tell us what is your perspective on whether we should legalize marijuana or not?
Well, our take, when I say our, is in speaking to a very good number of clergy from the state of Connecticut, is that there are many concerns that are raised as a product of this legislation being approved in other states that should cause us in Connecticut and our legislators to say, let's make sure we really look deep into this prior to passing some legislation that would legalize it for recreational purposes in the state of Connecticut. So our take is that we believe that due diligence needs to be taken prior to this becoming law in Connecticut.
Okay. And just recently, I just saw a sign here in near the New Haven area, which is saying marijuana come for cannabis is 60 miles from us. Mm-hmm. And basically, as everyone knows, in Massachusetts, marijuana has been legalized, and they're having some problems with the border because it's very close to Connecticut. You know, Springfield is very close to one of the towns in Connecticut. So there's a lot of back and forth movement because marijuana is legalized in Massachusetts. Brian, are you on?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay, Brian. I was just mentioning how Reverend Hernandez just gave us the take on what we should be doing about marijuana. And I just mentioned how we believe, given the fact that the Democrats are the large majority and they're promoting it, and a lot because of also one of the main reasons they're promoting it is because of the monies that we'll be bringing in to take care of our deficit. Plus, our new governor Lamont is in favor of passing a type of marijuana bill. I don't know if he's also promoting medical. I mean, I know he's definitely in favor of medical marijuana, but I'm not sure his position on recreational marijuana. But can you give me your take on marijuana, whether it should be legalized or not?
Absolutely. So I ran a dispensary here in Connecticut for about 3 years, and I didn't know nearly as much at the beginning as I had thought I did, and through the process, it was absolutely unbelievable the impact that you can have on people's lives and the outcomes and everything. But one of the big things that I learned through the process is in the medical program, everybody that's there is certified for a very severe chronic condition. But when it really comes down to it, the way that we're treating them is really the specific ailments of those conditions, those symptoms that they're really struggling with the most. And, you know, when you think about, you know, what they're doing, what the reasons they're medicating for, and what most people will tell you they're really using it for is going to be sleep, pain, and appetite or nausea are really the big ones there that people will tell you they're using it for. And, you know, when you can, and anxiety is the other big one as well. And, you know, when you consider that's what people are using to medicate for, it really kind of leads to, well, what are they using it for when they're using it, you know, so-called recreationally or for adult use? And this people that are coming out of the adult use dispensaries are saying that they're using it for those same reasons, for sleep, for pain, for anxiety, for appetite, but they may not qualify for the medical program because they don't have a chronic ailment that would lead them to qualify. So in my opinion, you know, when there is adult use legalization, everybody's really medicating for one reason or another. Very similar to, you know, everybody has, you know, people talk about having a rough day and needing an alcoholic drink or, you know, beer or glass of wine or whatever it happens to be at the end of the day to settle down. Well, you know, our healthcare system says that a drink at the end of the day is healthy. But, you know, when you're still medicating for one reason or another, whether it's pain, sleep, anxiety, any of those things, you know, and it's really no different with cannabis, yet you're finding that there's significantly less harm, and, you know, it doesn't have nearly the addictive qualities or any of the other things as well. And people that are running into issues with it are more for abuse, and that's going to happen with any product that can cause any sort of, you know, psychological changes to you, you know, where it gets you high or inebriated in any way that, you know, some people like that for reasons that you may not understand. So
Brian, because they mentioned about 31 conditions for medical marijuana. You just mentioned the symptoms, but what are the conditions that individuals to receive medical marijuana?
Absolutely. So the conditions that they have approved right now, some of the big ones, you have cancer, HIV and AIDS, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, epilepsy, you have Crohn's, you have chronic pain's not on there, but you have some chronic conditions that involve pain, such as damage to the spinal cord with objective neurological intractable spasticity, which is a really long one for specific back pain and nerve damage to the spinal cord there. They just approved degenerative disc disease. They just approved rheumatoid arthritis and fibromyalgia as well, along with migraines and shingles pain as well, so post-herpetic neuralgia, which is shingles pain. So you see a lot of nerve pain and pain in all of these, you know, sickle cell. And the only one that's on there that's not specifically, you know, a pain-related one that's more of a mental condition is your PTSD. You know, and that's the other end of things there with, you know, how it can really help patients with...
That's the post-traumatic stress syndrome, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, PTSD, okay. Now,
yep.
I was also, in terms of, they would also like to expand in the bill, because I think they have various bills, and, you know, the legislators have up to February to submit bills that will be discussed, and they wanted to increase the condition people with opioid use disorder, so that they can also be able to get the medical marijuana.
That actually was brought to the table a few months back, and it had gotten tabled for a while because the Board of Physicians wanted more information as to why opiate use and opiate use disorder and withdrawal could be added, and they ended up actually declining that for the reason being that they used at the time was that there are two different types of addiction that you're dealing with withdrawal, and that's your mental and psychological addiction and your physical addiction. And to their credit, they absolutely can be treated differently. But when you're talking about cannabis, it really doesn't make a difference there, because cannabis is treating both your mental and physical addictions to it. It is helping with the mental side of things, of feeling the need, the cravings, the anxiety, and everything else that comes with it, along with the physical side of things, which, you know, can be the shaking, the difficulty sleeping, the other pain, the nausea that can come with withdrawing and everything as well.
Okay.
You know, so it really can affect both sides of that, but they decided that it wasn't appropriate at the time. They needed more information.
So right now in Connecticut, there is approval for medical marijuana. Is there also approval for recreational marijuana?
No, that's what they're. So that's what Governor Lamont is actually come out and said that he is in favor of. There is a bill that was just introduced just this past week as well, that was supported by about 25% of our legislators, actually. That was a pretty inclusive bill regarding adult use legalization, and that's really what's going to be on the table this year. And the bill was a good starting point, we'll say, and I think that's a good thing to keep as a big part of it. But I think it was lacking in a few areas, but I think we're going to see a lot more bills coming, and I think you're going to see different parts of each of them, you know, pulled apart and sort of brought together in one larger bill eventually.
Now, you said that you have been a pharmacist. You had your own dispensary, right, here in Connecticut?
Yes, I managed the dispensary in Connecticut for about 3 years.
3 years. How long have dispensaries been out there?
They've been open since 2014. It was approved in Connecticut for medical use in 2012. They got them open in September of 2014. So they started with 6 of them. They then, after about 2 to 3 years, expanded to 9 total. And actually just recently in December, they approved an additional 9 dispensaries. So we're going to have another 9 more medical dispensaries opening up here within the next, 4 to 6 months or so. And that doesn't include any of the recreational dispensaries that may end up opening. Mm-hmm. But they're talking about potentially using the medical dispensaries as a way to get an adult use program off the ground in the beginning. And, it's a touchy subject for a lot of people. I think there's a long way to go and a lot of discussions there, but there will be, within the next few months, 18 total dispensaries, medical dispensaries in the state of Connecticut.
Okay. Now, can you tell me the positive side of what's going on in Massachusetts and the downside of what's going on in Massachusetts in terms of this whole legalization? And how many years have they already been legal?
They just approved their legalization went live as of January 1st this past year, or maybe the year before. Might have been the year before. But they've delayed getting their adult use program up and running just for a lot of logistical issues and bureaucratic stuff that was going on. There's a lot of great things that they have in their program, and there's a lot of bad things too. One of the things that we love that they've done, or that at least that they've attempted to do, is including the equity program, which is trying to include your disenfranchised communities, your communities that have been hit harder by the war on drugs and everything, and allow for easier access into the industry for those people that may not have the financial backing that, many other groups that are looking to get into the industry have. And they've also tried to include and improve the access in those communities by having more dispensaries, both medical and recreational in those communities as well. That's one of the better things. The problem with that is the implementation and the way that towns have structured their agreements, and how they allowed the towns to structure the agreements have made it very difficult. The towns are able to require the businesses to contribute, so many dollars towards this and that, and they're getting above what your equity applicants are able to provide them. But, one of the things that we've seen over the past year is a transition from the black market, which was thriving, to a gray market because things weren't up and running for a while and people didn't know where they were going to be.
Brian, can you just tell us a little bit about what are the qualifications, especially my interest is in the ones that where the disparity exists. The African American and Latino community basically, I think, are the ones that are more disenfranchised than any other community. So what does it entail in order for one to be able to participate or become a dispensary?
So in Connecticut, for a medical dispensary right now, because there's no regulations on any adult use, it's a $5,000 application fee. But the thing is you also have to have zoning. One of the biggest costs of the whole thing is in getting your zoning, you must also have an actual building that you have a lease on. And it took the Department of Consumer Protection about 10 months to decide on these dispensaries, which meant these dispensaries were paying rent on these buildings for 10 months, some of them being $5,000, $8,000 rent for all of this time. That becomes $50,000 to $80,000 in no time. That wasn't expected. And that's just a minimal cost. I mean, the cost of getting all the architectural plans, all the security plans, putting the entire application together and making sure that it includes everything to the specifications that the state wants, that's where people tend to struggle. That's where you end up needing to have lawyers and architects and all of these other professionals come in that, because of the industry and because they know what it is, are charging more money to these people because they know they can, because not everybody is willing to do business in this industry yet because of how unregulated it is. So they're really, I don't, the word extortion is kind of a strong word. I don't necessarily mean it that way, but it's very similar, we'll say, at how businesses are treating people entering, and if they,
So is it going to be like a pharmacist? Is it going to be like a pharmacist? Do you need a qualified pharmacist behind that counter?
Yes, in the medical dispensaries, that was one of the requirements in Connecticut, was that they did need a pharmacist as well. And it's a great thing and a bad thing. As a pharmacist, I think it's awesome. We're able to discuss drug interactions and, specific dosing, how to dose appropriately, how to decrease your prescription medications if that's the goal, appropriately with minimal, effects or side effects or anything as well. But the problem with that is I'm very expensive to employ. Pharmacists aren't cheap, where, that becomes an extreme expense for a lot of people looking to get started in the industry. And, you need more than just one pharmacist as well. So, those are definitely other barriers. And there's not a lot of pharmacists that are interested in getting in the industry or have knowledge of the industry as well.
Okay. So it sounds a little bit convoluted and complicated, especially since it's something kind of new to Connecticut. Because I also heard that because the federal government has not approved it, then the money's there. The people are having difficulties in terms of where do they put all that cash money.
That's a big, big problem, and that's actually something that I'm doing, and what I've been doing over the past few months is working with a software company that what they do is, they provide the software that it sits around any point of service that anybody's using and adds an extra layer of visibility and compliance to that business, and they are very favorable to the banking industry that way, because the banking's problem is that it's not illegal for banks to do business with the cannabis industry. There are actually restrictions in place that allow them to do that, but because they are so intense and extensive, it becomes very costly for the banks to get involved, and there's still a lot of ambiguity around what is actually going to come from everything. Is a new attorney general deciding that they might come after the medical marijuana industry or anything as well. So, it makes it very difficult. But with a lot of the new compliance softwares, I mean, the company Green Check Verified that I'm working with is doing some amazing stuff, and it allows for compliance, which is huge for businesses. So one of the other barriers that we were talking about for, somebody who might not have a lot of backing as one of the bigger firms.
Brian, can you?
Yeah.
I need to make a station break real quickly to remind everyone that they're listening to WNHH 103.5 FM. Streaming live via the NewHavenIndependent.org and also via LaVozHispanaRadio.com. We have here on our studio audience two individuals that we're talking whether marijuana should be legalized or not. We have Reverend Abraham Hernandez, who's the executive director of the Connecticut chapter of the National Hispanic Christian Leadership Conference, and we have Brian Esserter, RPH. He's a medical marijuana counselor and he's a pharmacist. And Abraham really does not believe that marijuana should be legalized in Connecticut, and I'd like to give him an opportunity to elaborate a little bit more on. You've had an opportunity to listen to what Brian has stated, and so give us your point of view on this, Abraham.
Yeah, we're looking at it from a public health concern, and I've done. When the last 2 years we were at the state capitol testifying against this, I felt that it wasn't the right decision that our legislators should make. But this last year I took extensive time for me to research, look at data, look at evidence-based information, and to see if I can come to a position and say, you know what, some folks, this is just another case of prohibition. Some have said, the major problem is the opioid addiction, and for some reason I've noticed that it seems to minimize the impact of what marijuana does. So I said, you know what, let me just talk to folks. And not just speaking to folks, to residents, to folks who are sitting in their church pews, but also to folks in the community. The concern to me lies in this, and it's with that next generation, with the children and youth that are coming behind us. For me to see that Congresswoman Delora was on TV a couple of Sundays ago talking about her concern, as well as other congressional leaders in the country, about this vaping, where it's not 40,000, it's not 400,000, it's 4 million teens, kids that attend our schools in the country who are vaping. And seeing that we want to legalize marijuana, learning through data that 53% of our kids get their marijuana for free, puts me to think you can put the limitations you want. It's going to be 21 years and older or 25 years and so older, whatever it may be. But this is still going to fall in the hands of our kids. To learn then that for adults, 1 in 10 who use marijuana become addicted, I said, well, some may say that's minimal.
Abraham, can you hold that? Because I really would like, because we're using the terminology vaping, and we're assuming that our listeners know. Like, can somebody explain what vaping is?
Yeah, this is, I guess, basically what we understand as the e-cigarettes. And now there's also Juuls, in which now they have flavors, watermelon and apple and so on.
Brian, what is vaping? What is the medical? Tell me what goes in there.
Well, it's different between your nicotine products or your just flavored products and your cannabis products, actually. But it's bottom line, what vaping is just the e-cigs. It's when you heat the liquid up to a temperature that is below burning it, but above, it sort of turns it into a vapor. And it depends what products they're putting in the vape itself, in the cartridge, whatever they happen to be using, as to how dangerous it is. But I absolutely agree with the Reverend that this vaping, especially amongst teens, is an issue that needs to be addressed.
So they smoke this vapor, they put it into their, how do they do the vaping?
Through an electronic device. They're not actually combusting anything. It is a vapor that they're inhaling. Some of them don't even really inhale it.
So they have to put it in their mouth and breathe it in, or do they do it through the nose?
No, through their mouth.
Okay, so it's a tube-like that they put in their mouth, and then they breathe it in. They suck it in.
Yep, most of them look just very similar to a cigarette. It kind of lights up on the end to let you know it's working when you're inhaling it. But it's an electronic version of what they've modeled to look just like a cigarette.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it looks like a cigarette. Oh, so it's not one of those
like the
glass,
no,
those glass things.
Something else. Yeah.
Oh, I'm over here thinking it's one of those glass things.
It's something you can put in your pocket.
Oh, okay. So it looks like a cigarette then.
Some are rectangular.
Longer. Okay.
Yeah.
They have different shapes.
All right. So continue. I'm sorry.
So when I hear this data about the vaping, that the CDC and so on, they're concerned about this. I'm like saying, do we really want to play Russian roulette with our kids, and that if 1 in 5 that use regularly become addicted? Is it me taking a gun with 5 chambers, leaving 4 empty, and just putting 1, and hoping that it's not my kid out of the 5 that doesn't end up becoming a statistic? To hear then that it takes to the age of 25 with scientific evidence for a child to develop its brain, and knowing that this has some neurological effects and cognitive thinking and decision making and so on, like Mr. Essenter said in the beginning, folks find something to numb themselves on many occasions to escape from circumstances that they're going through. So in the last 3 years, I've been focusing on education in the state of Connecticut and our Latino communities, which has the highest dropout rate, which has the lowest college attention and retention rate, and we have a host of other problems that our inner city kids have in the state. And me saying, putting another tool in the tool pouch that's going to go contrary to what we're trying to do and get our kids graduating, because they're not graduating in Connecticut, to me just exacerbates the concerns that we have in regards to our kids. We hear then some saying, well, the black and brown community residents or citizens are the ones who are arrested more. Evidence that shows us that in Colorado, since they legalized it, blacks are arrested 2 times as much as whites, and the Latino incarceration has increased 32%, and there's some direct correlation with marijuana. So when I hear that, it's that our folks are being arrested more, well, in Connecticut, that's no longer a problem, because according to the Office of OPM, only 32 people were arrested a couple of years ago due to marijuana, and they believe that the majority of them had to do with illicit activities. So in Connecticut, we've taken care of that concern because we decriminalized it. So our concern is, why go to the step of legalizing it versus decriminalizing it? In my case, I know that some may say, well, Massachusetts is doing it. We saw the billboard 60 miles down the road. But I can tell you, Mama, when I was a kid, she says, well, if your brother's going to jump off the building, you're going to jump off the building also?
Yeah.
So my concern is that evidence, data demonstrates that this is, that there are reasons for us to use caution. We believe that this is a novice idea. It's come out the last 3-4 years. We haven't seen the after effects, the ramification that it will have. And I feel that Connecticut's just putting this on a fast track, because this is another point. When we shared data in the last 2 years about Colorado, they were saying, well, Reverend, you're giving data of 2014, and that's when it first became legalized, and things tend to spike at first, then they tend to normalize. Okay, that may be the case, but the truth of the matter is that data does indicate that we have this affecting our kids in our schools, that vaping is becoming an issue. We legalize it. You know what? Our kids are going to be vaping marijuana. Their brains won't be developed. 60% of kids, Norma, this is what sent a shiver through my mind. 60% of kids who smoke marijuana on a regular basis don't graduate high school. So if you don't graduate high school,
what are you? Where you got that from?
Huh? Oh,
Where did you get that?
I can try and get you the information, and that's another
I
concern.
would prefer you have it right now if you're going to make a statement like that,
Okay.
because that couldn't be farther from the truth, sir. I apologize, but
Okay,
that's just blasphemous.
I'll get you the data. If you
If
give
could, I'd
Norma the
appreciate
email.
that, 'cause that's, and it's also less than 10% is the addiction rate as well, which is better than any of the other nicotine, alcohol, any of the other drugs that we have already legalized, not 1 in 5 as well.
Yeah, and that's the case that we're finding also, Norma, at the state capitol when we testified. Data of those who oppose it is not good. Then my question to them is, show me then your data in your states where it's been a benefit. I spoke recently to an insurance company, a dear friend of mine. I just went to visit her, and I told her, I said, she said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm in the state and working on marijuana. She says, well, I'm concerned. I'm an insurance broker. I'm concerned because folks are now applying for life insurance, and when there's marijuana in their system, the insurance rates are spiking up. There's evidence in different states that, if I'm a business owner and I have a roofing company, am I going to want to risk my insurance with someone that's on the roof that may fall because they may be under the influence? This is happening.
Differently than you should if somebody was using alcohol on the job, though. Either it should be regulated exactly the same. You don't want any of your employees in a high-risk job like that using alcohol. You don't want your employees in a high-risk job like that using painkillers. And many of them who are in a high-risk job like that, who are in a physical labor job, are already using some sort of Tylenol with codeine, hydrocodone, muscle relaxers, anything like that, which will make them much more impaired and much more of a risk to that employer over time. Let me promise you that. Because those are legal and those will not show up as a positive drug test, and the employer will never even know about it, nor do they have to.
In Colorado,
Benadryl can do it.
In Colorado, since they legalized this in 2014, according to the report, there was 111,000 users. In 2017, in the report that just came out from the state of Colorado, it's 206,000 users. This has created a market. The insurance, the automobile, let's talk about impact financially. And in Colorado, since they legalized it, the insurance rates have skyrocketed for automobiles. Is this going to do good then for economy? When I got to think about, I got to spend another $50, $70 on my insurance for my car versus $50, $70 in groceries for my kids? These are just things that we're saying, let's analyze everything before we rush to judgment, because there's still not enough evidence for us to say if this is going to be good for us in our state.
Well, I just want to remind everyone that you're listening to WNHH 103.5, the point of view as to whether marijuana should be legalized in Connecticut or not. We have Reverend Abraham Hernandez, and Reverend Hernandez is the Executive Director of the Connecticut chapter of the National Hispanic Christian Leadership Conference, and we also have with us Dr. Brian Esserter. He's a medical marijuana counselor, and he's also a pharmacist, and they're both letting us know their different points of view on this. We're almost closing now our English version of this program, so I'm going to give it to Dr. Brian Esserter. Brian, your take on legalizing marijuana, please?
Absolutely. So, few points here. The positives for really what it can do. I mean, what we're looking at here is, what we've seen, especially from states like Colorado, who've had it kind of going the longest, is number one, a major decrease in the opiate use. And there, a lot of patients we've seen a very huge decrease in the opiate epidemic, which is a major cost on this society as well. You're seeing a huge creation of revenue. Well, let's not even say that, because the amount of revenue that it's going to generate for the state is not really as big as people want to believe it is. It's a large number, yes, but those numbers for a state budget are really not as impactful as people want to believe it is. What I believe the bigger impact there is actually more the jobs that'll be created, the taxes that'll be taken from them, the amount of money that will be generated into the economy as well. A lot of the reasons that you see spikes in the arrests and everything after legalization is because some of the people that are really interested in getting the black market shut down are now your new legal dispensary owners as well, because that black market is taking away their business. So you're going to find allies in people who you may not have expected that are interested in getting these illegal, illicit products off of the market and keeping them from the kids. I mean, if once you see the law enforcement able to go after your illegal operations, then I think you'll see much more of the impact to the kids and the youth be much different. I agree that vaping is a problem amongst the youth. I don't think that's such the case with cannabis. I think the problem is that kids get away with it because people don't know what they're doing. And I think if we have a better idea of what they're vaping, I think we'll be able to get a better handle on that. But, you know, again, I kind of lean back to alcohol when you think of regulating a market, and, you know, an alcohol store is very unlikely to sell to a minor because it is not worth their business to lose that license for selling to a minor. And I think you're going to find the same thing with the adult use dispensaries as well. I think as far as the black and brown communities being affected, I don't know where we're getting this 2-to-1 ratio from. I have not read any of that data. And if you speak to anybody in those communities, and I have many friends there that would be happy to speak to you about that, those numbers are much more closer to your 8-to-1, 10-to-1 range there that you're going to find. And either way, it's, you know, I mean, these are people that even if they don't end up, you know, getting incarcerated for long, if they just get arrested and they don't have the money to pay their bond, they're now stuck in the jail system for months, years, and not even being convicted of anything as well. You know, I mean, these kind of claims that they're ending up with can really affect their outcomes and their options in life as well. I just think overall it could end up decreasing healthcare costs. I mean, if you're helping patients decrease medication use, if you're helping them improve their quality of life, and you know, you're going to see fewer hospital visits, fewer medications that they're taking, and you know, you're going to see much happier people in general. I'm not really sure what else to say right this second. I'm sure I'm forgetting a whole bunch of things.
Brian, I think you've made your case. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And Abraham?
Once again, our position is just say no, KNOW. It's no other evidence. Just get all the facts. We think the jury's still out. If Connecticut takes a break, wait 2 or 3 years, because Colorado data, it's not factual, then let's wait and see what's going to happen in Massachusetts for us to make a determination in Connecticut. That's all we're asking. Let's do our due diligence. Let's wait, sit back. And my thing is, if they're going to open these shops, then open it up in Greenwich and Fairfield, not in New Haven.
Well, folks, you have been listening to WNHH 103.5, and I'd like you to please stay tuned. And now we're going to have an opportunity to practice our Spanish. You'll be able to listen to the same individuals now with their perspective, so that the Latino community can also see what is going on in terms of whether marijuana should be legalized in Connecticut or not. Until next time, this is Norma Rodriguez Reyes, your host. Health, money, and love, and plenty of time to enjoy it. May we live to be 120 in good health, of course. Hasta la próxima.
Estás escuchando La Voz Hispana Radio.
Cementerio Evergreen, un refugio de tranquilidad, una tradición de servicio. No espere hasta el momento más difícil de su vida. Espacios tan bajos como $850. Plan de pago sin intereses disponible. Entierro completo. Entierro de cremación. Nichos de cremación. Jardín de dispersión. Marcadores y monumentos. Programa de flores. Evergreen Cemetery, 769 LT Grasso Boulevard, New Haven, Connecticut. 203-624-5505 www.evergreencem.org.
Harley-Davidson presenta a LiveWire, su primera motocicleta eléctrica. Este es tu mundo verde. La compañía estadounidense Harley-Davidson inició el año con un producto más amable con el medio ambiente. Se trata de LiveWire, la primera moto eléctrica que produce la compañía. Harley hizo el anuncio en el CES, la feria de consumo de tecnología más importante y más grande del mundo, realizada en la ciudad de Las Vegas, Nevada, la segunda semana de enero de 2019. Aunque es eléctrica, la LiveWire no sacrifica ni su sonido ni su apariencia. Una robusta moto tal como Harley nos tiene acostumbrados. El motor de LiveWire fue realizado por la compañía y es totalmente eléctrico. Produce 100% de su fuerza al girar el acelerador. El vehículo tiene una transmisión de una sola velocidad, no tiene embrague, por lo que no hay cambio de marchas. Solo tienes que girar el acelerador para ir de 0 a 96 kilómetros por hora en 3,5 segundos. Puedes cargar la LiveWire en tu casa con una estación de carga eléctrica doméstica, o si tienes prisa en 40 minutos, puedes cargarla a plenitud en una estación de carga rápida ubicada usualmente en lugares públicos. Si te interesa esta motocicleta y estás en Estados Unidos o Canadá, la podrás comprar a partir de agosto a un precio inicial de $29,799. Marisabel Houston, CNN, Atlanta.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
La voz hispana.
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 Todo el mundo oye La Voz Hispana de Connecticut, 103.5 FM.
Muy buenas tardes. Esta es Norma Rodríguez Reyes en el show que pasa. Y ustedes nos están escuchando a nosotros a través de WNHH 103.5 FM. Y también en su computadora a través de newhavenindependent.org y lavozhispanaradio.com. Hoy tenemos aquí en nuestro estudio al reverendo Abraham Hernández. Él es director ejecutivo del capítulo de Connecticut de The National Hispanic Leadership Conference, la
Conferencia Nacional de Líderes Hispano-Cristianos.
Así mismo.
Algo así.
Gracias, Abraham. Muchas gracias. Y también porque hoy nosotros vamos a estar hablando sobre si se debe legalizar marihuana en Connecticut, sí o no. Entonces también tenemos al doctor Brian Essenter, y él es un consejero de la medicina marihuana y también es un farmacéutico. Muchas gracias por estar con nosotros hoy.
Muchísimas gracias, Norma. Un placer estar contigo aquí una vez más.
Okay, and Brian, thank you so much for being here with us today. Brian?
Yes,
yes.
Here.
Thank you so much for being with us today. I just mentioned how today we're going to be speaking about whether marijuana should be legalized here in Connecticut or not. Bueno, como muchos de ustedes saben, el presupuesto no pasó en Connecticut para legalizar la marihuana en términos de recreación, pero y supuestamente, dado de que tenemos muchos legisladores demócratas y la mayoría de ellos están de acuerdo con que pasen esta legislación, y también el nuevo gobernador Lamont también quiere, y todos mayormente quieren por razones de dinero, ¿ok? Aquí se está hablando de mucho dinero, ¿ok? Pero a veces uno tiene que pensar en las consecuencias del dinero, ¿verdad? Pero se dice que hay una buena posibilidad que este año en la legislatura sí va a pasar que se legalice la marihuana. Pero aunque todavía no se ha legalizado completamente la marihuana. Sí se ha estado gente se le dan la prescripción para medicina, marihuana medicinal, por razones de medicina. Y ahí es cuando vamos a hablar con el consejero de Medical Marijuana. Su posición es que sí se debe de legalizar, mientras que el de reverendo Abraham Hernández, su posición que no, y él tiene buenas razones también por la cual eso no debe de suceder. So, la primera pregunta va a ser para el señor Brian Esserter, que quisiera hablar primero sobre la marihuana medicinal y cuáles son las diferentes enfermedades por la cual se le da una prescripción para la medicina de marihuana. Brian, I was just saying how, there's a good possibility that they are going to be legalizing marijuana this time around in the legislature, and being that our governor is in favor of it, and how one of the main reasons why they're in favor of it is because of the income or the monies that it's going to be bringing in, even though you mentioned that is not as much as people are really thinking, but that medicinal marijuana has been approved in Connecticut and is running right now. And if you can tell me right now, what are some of the ailments or not the diseases or whatever it is that people must have in order for them to qualify for medical marijuana?
Absolutely. So there's 31 conditions currently that are approved for medical marijuana.
Hay 31 posiciones que están aprobadas para medicinal marihuana.
There's cancer, glaucoma, Parkinson's, and multiple sclerosis.
Cáncer, glaucoma, múltiple esclerosis y glaucoma.
HIV and AIDS.
HIV y AIDS. SIDA. Epilepsia.
Damage to the spinal cord.
Daño a la columna vertebral.
PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder.
Esta es una enfermedad.
El desorden postraumático.
Sí, que tiene que ver, la mayoría de la gente que están envueltos en eso son los que vienen de la guerra, ¿verdad que sí?
En ocasiones sí.
Sí, mayormente, ajá. Yes.
And some of the other new ones are rheumatoid arthritis,
artritis,
fibromyalgia, and degenerative spinal disorders.
Y degenerativa, cuando la columna se te está degenerando. So these are basically the reasons why. And you were going to mention others instead of just only the physical ones?
The PTSD is the one that is not just physical, it's more mental and has more of an effect psychologically, where the rest are much more physical.
Okay. Entonces, la que es más psicológicamente que se está hablando es la PTSD, mientras que los otros son físicamente. Okay. So, esas enfermedades que mencionó el farmacéutico son las razones por las cuales se te da una prescripción para esto. Okay, so now that the person that is given the prescription, where is it that they have to go to in order to get these prescriptions? And, it's not in a hospital setting that they're given these prescriptions, is it?
It could be. It depends on their doctor, but any doctor or APRN can get themselves certified, which is simply signing up on the DCP website to approve a patient if they have one of the 31 debilitating conditions.
So, cualquier doctor que sea certificado puede aprobar a cualquier persona que tiene cualquiera de estas 31 condiciones. And so, do they get them at the dispensaries or where at the
No, they would
hospital?
get them from their doctor. If their doctor is not willing to certify him, there are other doctors, that will certify you. Again, as long as you do have one of the conditions, and then the medication is what they would get from the dispensary.
Okay, and the dispensary is like a pharmacy or something, or?
Yes. very similar.
Okay. Sí, el doctor le da la receta y entonces ustedes tienen que llenar esa receta. Hay algunos doctores que no están envueltos en eso, pero hay otros que sí, y todo depende. En realidad estamos hablando de si se debe legalizar o no se debe legalizar. Sin embargo, ya se está practicando para ciertas condiciones ya la legalización de marihuana, aunque ahora en la legislatura también se está hablando de legalizar la marihuana para razones recreacionales, ¿verdad? Es bien similar como si tú cuando sales de tu trabajo, porque obviamente durante el tiempo de trabajo los empleadores no quieren que tú vengas a trabajar en una manera embriagado. Pues yo me imagino que así mismito va a ser con la recreación marihuana, que es después que tú salgas de tu trabajo a hacer eso. Pero, aquí a veces es difícil porque ¿qué uno va a hacer? Cuando uno está en contra, que es lo que está pasando aquí en el caso del reverendo Abraham Hernández, pero se sabe que es una pelea subiendo la loma, porque los números, los votos están ahí para aprobar o legalizar esto. Pero yo quisiera saber de reverendo Abraham Hernández el por qué no se debe legalizar la marihuana.
Nosotros consideramos que la legalización de marihuana es un asunto de salud pública, donde consideramos que en nuestras ciudades, nosotros sabemos lo que la campaña Díganos las drogas hizo décadas atrás en nuestro país, donde nuestra gente minoritaria fueron arrestadas, donde tuvieron felonías, donde no pudieron ni conseguir trabajos, donde sabemos también que en nuestros caseríos la droga estaba rampante y se veía donde nuestras comunidades minoritarias estaban siendo arrestadas en maneras mucho más desproporcional con otros grupos étnicos. Y nosotros creemos que la droga lo que hace es que esclaviza a uno. Nosotros creemos que nuestra niñez y nuestra juventud está en peligro, como mencioné en la sesión en inglés, sabiendo que 4 millones de jóvenes en nuestras escuelas están lo que se llama vaping, que es con el asunto del cigarrillo electrónico. A nosotros nos debe preocupar porque estamos hablando que si se legaliza la marihuana recreativa, van entonces a empezar a mercadear productos electrónicos. Y eso es la moda de nuestros niños. Yo estuve en la ciudad de Nubrita la semana pasada y estaba reunida con la superintendente de escuela de ese distrito. Y yo le pregunté, ¿qué usted nos dice esto? Y ella nos dice, nosotros los principales y los maestros estamos aterrorizados con las posibilidades de que esto se convierta en ley. Porque nosotros tenemos niños, y yo había dicho, bueno, los muchachos en la escuela superior, high school, están fumando esto. Ella me dijo, permíteme corregirle, reverendo Hernández. Los niños en nuestras escuelas intermedias están usando estos cigarrillos electrónicos. Legalizan la marihuana, nuestros niños, por indagar y experimentar, van a consumirlo. Entonces, ¿qué va a hacer de nuestros niños? Que científicamente... Qué interesante que la Universidad de Connecticut, la que todo el mundo adora porque el equipo de baloncesto, hizo un estudio recientemente que dice que esto tiene efectos incorregibles hasta cierto punto en el cerebro de nuestros jóvenes, de cualquiera persona que lo consuma regularmente, porque nos dice que la ciencia nos dice que el cerebro se desarrolla, toma hasta la edad de 25 años para que el cerebro se desarrolle. Entonces nosotros prácticamente consideramos que estamos jugando la ruleta rusa con nuestros niños en decir, está bien que lo hagamos, que todo el mundo lo haga, así como usted compra su cigarrillo, como compra su cerveza, está bien. Sabiendo que la estadística nos dice que el 53% de los adolescentes, los jóvenes, reciben su marihuana regalada por un amigo. Ellos no podemos poner los límites que nosotros queramos, pero esto va a caer en las manos de nuestros niños, nuestros jóvenes. ¿Cuál es la preocupación también? Tenemos niños, tenemos jóvenes en nuestras escuelas en Connecticut. Los hispanos estamos en el fondo del barril en todas las estadísticas. ausencia crónica, muchachos que no se gradúan de sesión escolar, jóvenes que van a la universidad y regresan a la universidad. Entonces, esto lo que puede es aún afectar más a nuestra juventud, que tiene sus dificultades, sus retos en nuestras escuelas, tener entonces otro armamento que vaya a asesinar, como digo yo, los sueños de muchos de estos niños. Norma, la otra cosa es que vamos a ser sinceros, nuestras ciudades urbanas está llena, no llena, pero tenemos una buena cantidad de niños que están siendo criados por abuelita y abuelo, o por una madre soltera, porque la droga afectó a su hijo o afectó a sus padres. Entonces, consideramos que lo que va a generar esto comparativamente con lo que puede desatar o desencadenar en nuestros muchachos, hablando de salud pública, para nosotros nos preocupa que no valga la pena.
Okay. Bueno, Abraham. Brian, were you able to understand the majority of what his reason for not wanting marijuana to be legalized in Connecticut?
I believe I was able to pick up on most of it, yeah.
Okay, great. Now, do you want to let us know why marijuana should be legalized in Connecticut? Ya escuchamos el punto de vista, el por qué la marihuana no debe de ser legalizada en Connecticut del reverendo Abraham Hernández. Ahora vamos a escuchar la razón por la cual marihuana sí debe de ser legalizada aquí en Connecticut por Brian Esseter. Él es consejero de marihuana medicinal y es un farmacéutico. Okay, Brian?
Yep, thank you very much. So I think there's quite a few reasons that it should be legalized, but mostly, the revenue, like we've stated, is good, not what we believe is as impactful as we want it to be. But I think the jobs and the taxes and the money that comes from them and how much people will be able to put more money into the economy is very big.
Okay, él dijo que ya hemos oído varias razones. El dinero, aunque se está hablando, todo el mundo se cree que va a ser bastante, pero en realidad no lo va a ser. Pero va a generar bastante trabajo, eso quiere decir que va a venir más impuestos y va a meter más dinero a la economía. Okay?
Mm-hmm. I believe legalization, if we include a significant, equity portion to, help to those communities that have been affected by the war on drugs and by the disproportionate policing of people who affected by the war on drugs as well.
Okay, entonces él cree en la equidad de para las personas que en realidad han sido desenfranchadas, especialmente en la guerra en la droga, que ha sido bastante, más personas, más de nuestra gente son afectadas que cualquier otro grupo en eso.
Mm-hmm. And I believe by legalizing, you allows the legal operators and retailers to have reasons to not sell to minors because they're going to lose their licensing and potentially their entire business if they do that, which should in turn, over time, decrease that accessibility to minors.
Entonces, él dice que las personas que tengan la licencia para poder vender el producto, obviamente ellos quieren conservar su licencia, así que no le van a vender a menores de edad. Okay.
And I do agree with the Reverend regarding vaping being an issue amongst the youth and teens.
Okay.
And I also agree that education is huge in this process as well.
Okay, él sinceramente está de acuerdo con el reverendo Hernández sobre vaping para los jóvenes y los teens y especialmente la educación, que es muy importante en eso. Y vamos a hablar un poquito, yo no sé si lo que están escuchando no saben lo que se está hablando, qué quiere decir vaping. Yo voy a dejar que el reverendo Hernández explique qué es vaping.
Sí, eso es lo que se llama un cigarrillo electrónico, que es un contenedor que contiene un líquido donde al inhalar se convierte en humo, y cuando uno exhala, pues más o menos es lo que dicen, algo que reemplaza el cigarrillo. Ahora, también lo interesante de eso, que no solo están fumando, sino que ahora lo tienen en diferentes fresas, diferentes colores o sabores, manzana, melocotón o lo que sea, y es algo entonces que la gente ahora están disfrutando prácticamente como una alternativa al cigarrillo.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Brian.
So vaping, it's just an electronic cigarette. I agree. I think that the flavors are a problem, but the big difference in the safety, especially of vaping with cannabis, is that it doesn't have a lot of the ingredients that they have in the electronic cigarettes, your e-cigarettes, your nicotine products, and just your flavored products. It is a much purer product. I do agree there's more information that's needed on vaping, but I do think that education to the youth is as important as anything. I believe the war on drugs and the DARE program was great, but it lied to the kids. And I think these kids are now figuring that out, and we need to educate them appropriately rather than with what we want them to know.
Sí, él está hablando de que sí que es un problema, especialmente cuando se está hablando de que estos vaping también tiene frutas para obviamente traerlo más, pero él dice que el cannabis no tiene el nicotine, ¿ok? Que tiene un cigarrillo. Grande es un producto mucho más puro. Entonces, en términos de la educación es súper importante, especialmente la guerra de las drogas, en la cual muchas veces se le mintió a las personas. ¿Ok? Brian?
Yeah. So, sorry, you want me to continue on that?
Okay, so basically that's the main reasons what you just stated now is why we need to legalize marijuana in Connecticut.
Sorry, yeah, no, there's, I mean, there's a lot of reasons. I think that the people that would open themselves up to a legal market would be able to use some medication that could also improve their lives in ways that they wouldn't be willing to otherwise. And I think that an open retail market would allow for the regulations and restrictions that would allow these products to be clean, pure, healthy, rather than a black market where you don't know what you're getting, what it's laced with, or anything like that as well.
Okay. Y una de las otras razones mayores por la cual él cree que se debe de legalizar la marihuana es porque las personas que utilizan este producto van a recibirla en una manera más limpia y regulada. Entonces, al hacerlo eso hay menos daño que la que está en el mercado negro, porque es controlada el dosis que se le da, la cantidad que se le da, eso es controlada, mientras que allá afuera en el mercado negro definitivamente no está controlada, y entonces así es que suceden muchas muertes y problemas para nuestra gente. Sí, Abraham.
Me gustaría resaltar un par de puntos que también vienen al punto del punto de vista de preocupación. Cuando estuve hablando con la superintendente de escuela de Fernando Britan y le pregunté, ¿qué usted nos dice de personas que nos indican que, bueno, lo que tenemos que hacer es que al legalizarla, pues lo que hacemos nosotros es simplemente, pues, entonces, educar, tomar una parte de los fondos generados al Estado para entonces la educación de nuestros niños para prevención? Y vino a la mente cuando escuché de un principal, no sé, quiero decir un principal, no quiero exagerar decir que era era un principal, por cierto, de escuela superior, cuando se le preguntó, ¿qué usted cree de la legalización aquí en Colorado? Él le dijo, lo único que puedo decirle a usted es que ellos dijeron que las escuelas íbamos a recibir más dinero para nuestros niños, en la educación de nuestros niños y prevención. Lo único que hemos recibido en nuestras escuelas es más marihuana. Entonces yo le pregunté a la superintendente en la universidad, que usted me dicen lo que quieren entonces poner fondos para educación a nuestros hijos. Y ella dijo, reverendo, yo no quiero un centavo de eso, yo lo que quiero es que cada niño cuando entre por las escuelas, por las puertas, tenga su mente sana, lista, capaz, preparada para aprender. Así que eso es algo que nosotros también decimos, es preocupante cuando uno escucha eso de una persona que trabaja con nuestros niños 180, 182 días al año. Otro punto es que, y me gustaría, te recomiendo que un día invite nosotros estuvimos con una doctora de la Universidad de Yale, que ella nos dijo, ¿sabes qué? Hay algunas personas dentro de la ciencia que están a favor, pero la gran mayoría todavía está en la posición que no creen que esto es algo factible que se debe legalizar. ¿El por qué? Yo te invito a que pongas dos médicos de diferentes posiciones que ellos hablan, porque ellos dicen, la evidencia científica da a entender que esto no es una buena idea. Una recomendación, no que tengo yo que decirte que hacer, Norma, pero para el futuro un punto a considerar. Tercer punto. En el estado de Colorado, lo que ha generado en cuestión de fondo para estatal es menos.
Abraham, un momentito. Can you translate what you just said about the New Britain public school system and also about Yale University?
Okay.
So that Brian can understand what just went on.
And speaking to the superintendent of schools in New Britain, and I asked her, I said, what do you think? What's your response to someone who may say, well, we want to take from the funds generated from the sales, you want to take funds to invest it in prevention care and education for kids? Her response was, Reverend, I don't want 1 cent of that, because my desire is that our kids are coming into schools with open minds and with the capacity for them to be able to learn. I'm not interested in trying to prevent. I'm interested in the kids coming in at this time and having a sound mind. Second point was that there was an expert from Yale University in a meeting where I was recent, who stated there's some in the medical field who believe that this is a good thing, but overall, at least a vast majority of them in the field of science, the medical field, believe that this is not a good idea, because there is evidence, there's research that states that this is not a good time for this to become law, because of the after effects on the health of those who consume it. And I just recommended to Norma, it would be good to have you as a doctor, and have a doctor who works with substance abuse or does some type of research for you to have a conversation in regards to the medical aspects.
Brian, your take on this?
Yeah, just to your last point, I've had many discussions with many abuse counselors, and the majority of them see this as what they call a softer landing than you would with some other products such as methadone or Suboxone, which become another lifelong dependence with its own issues and everything as well. But I don't want to digress onto that. Two things. I believe that the superintendent of New Britain schools could not be more disillusioned about what's going on in her schools, and the fact that she says she has no interest in preventing should say a lot to the people of New Britain, and they might want to think about that going forward. That's all I have to say about that, because she also needs to be educated severely. She has no idea what she's talking about. But beyond that, the other statement that you made regarding Yale, honestly, it was way too general to even comment on. There was no specifics of anything there. And again, it sounds like there's just a need for more education as to what's really happening. Just a general, this isn't a good time, is not a good scientific answer from scientific people.
Yeah,
I believe they would give more accurate information than that. So.
No sé si quiere traducir. Se me fue porque sí estaba escuchando para responder.
Él estaba hablando que la superintendenta de New Britain en realidad no sabe de lo que ella está hablando, al ella decir que no le interesa prevenir, que ella necesita ser más educada para que así pueda entonces hacer esos tipos de comentarios. En términos de los doctores de la Universidad de Yale, diciendo que esto no es bueno en este tiempo dado, en realidad no es algo que un doctor que tiene información del subject mencionaría.
Ahora hago la aclaración de que ellos dicen, que los médicos dicen que no es buena idea porque tienen la evidencia científica.
They're saying that the doctors are saying that it's not a good idea because they have the scientific evidence. Brian?
That's not true. There's thousands of articles that are available online right now. The problem they have is that they're not coming from pharmaceutical companies based here in the U.S. The problem is most of them are coming from outside of the U.S. where they are actually doing double-blind, placebo, randomized trials and have the evidence that the doctors are looking for. These doctors just don't want to read them or believe them.
So yo recomiendo que lo invita a él, que venga con la doctora y que debatan.
Sí, tenemos que, sí, la próxima, otra sección que podemos tener es definitivamente hablar sobre estos doctores que supuestamente tienen esto de discusión. Pero tú sabes que yo siempre he dicho que cuando se está hablando de un tópico, tú siempre tienes la persona que está de acuerdo y la persona que no está de acuerdo. Esto es bien similar con los republicanos y los demócratas, los PNP y los PPD, cualquier, los que estaban con Lamont y los que estaban con ¿quién era que corrió? Stefanowski. Todo depende en qué posición tú quieres tomar y entonces tú justificas esa posición. Pero hoy aquí estamos bien, queremos que nuestros oyentes escuchen el sí y el no de legalizar la marihuana en Connecticut, y Abraham poder decir yo se lo dije a ustedes, y Brian poder decir yo lo eduqué a ustedes. Brian, I was commenting how it all depends on what position we decide to take, and that's how we justify it, but then later on Abraham could say I told you guys so, and then Brian could say I educated you guys so.
Absolutely. That's why I love these conversations. I think they're great to have, and I appreciate the Reverend for having the discourse with me as well. I think it's very important to hear both sides of the topic.
Sí, entonces Brian está dando las gracias a Reverend para poder tener este discurso, porque el escuchar los dos lados es muy importante. Abraham, ¿tú querías hacer otro punto?
Sí, quería también, porque el Estado de Connecticut tiene un problema presupuestario. Eso se sabe, y un déficit estatal. Ahora, lo que yo pongo entonces, miremos entonces, se está hablando que esto se está tomando por motivos financieros. En el estado de Colorado, ¿sabe qué % del ingreso del presupuesto del estado es por los residuos, lo que ellos reciben de la marihuana? Menos de 1%.
Oh my goodness, Brian, he is saying that in the state of Colorado, the monies that the state is receiving less than 1%.
Of the total revenue
of the state revenues and budget.
Oh yeah, that wouldn't surprise. I'm not entirely sure of the numbers, I wouldn't say that that's so inaccurate, because you're right. The amount of money that's being generated for what the percentage of a total state budget is not the large amount that we want to believe it is. I agree with that completely, and that's not the only position that I would ever stand on for that reason.
Y Brian está de acuerdo de que es menos de 1% del el presupuesto entero del estado. Pero quiero tomar este momento a darle las gracias a todos los que nos están viendo a través de Facebook y los que nos están escuchando a través de sus radios en la 103.5 FMLP. Muchas gracias por estar sintonizándonos a nosotros. Le quiero recordar que estamos aquí sobre marihuana, si deben ser legalizados aquí en Connecticut. Tenemos a Reverendo Abraham Hernández de, ¿cómo se llama eso en español, por favor?
La Conferencia Nacional de Líderes Cristianos Hispanos.
Aquí en Connecticut, él es el director ejecutivo del capítulo de Connecticut. Y tenemos también a Brian Esserter, que él es el consejero de marihuana medicinal, es un farmacéutico y él tiene la compañía MM Consult Connecticut, okay? MN Consulta Connecticut. Thank you so much for being with us. We've got our closing statements. Brian, you want to close at this time, please?
Absolutely. I just think that a couple of things. I think number one, it's absolutely imperative that everybody educates themselves on the topic and tries to get the most up-to-date information. I realize that's not always easy. But I think education is absolutely the key.
Okay, Reverendo Brian quiere decir que una de las cosas más importantes para todos ustedes es es que se eduque sobre este tópico, ¿ok? Mm-hmm.
And the only other thing that I really wanted to say short and quick is I've never seen a situation where putting a product behind the counter and requiring somebody to show ID has allowed for that to now become more accessible to children and those who should not be accessing it.
I'm sorry. I'm not.
Que él ha visto que.
I'm just saying it.
Want me to translate for you, Brian?
Please, if you would.
Él dice que nunca ha visto un caso cuando ellos ponen un producto detrás de en un negocio en que ellos vayan entonces a vender esos productos a niños menores de edad.
Okay, so you're talking about not selling to minors, right?
Yeah, I'm just saying the access to minors, by putting a product behind a counter and requiring somebody to show ID, it should be decreased. That doesn't make it easier for them to access.
No lo hace más fácil para que ellos tengan acceso al producto. Uh-huh.
And that was all. And
Okay.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay, and thank you so much for being with us, Abraham.
Bueno, mis últimas palabras serían, Norma, de que nosotros necesitamos pensar seriamente en esto. Nuestras comunidades hispanas, hablando de nuestra gente, han sido afectadas de manera devastadora por lo que son las drogas. Nosotros reconocemos que la marihuana es una droga de apertura. No significa que si fumas marihuana vas a ser un adicto a drogas más fuertes. Pero nosotros hemos hablado con muchísimas personas que estaban adictos a lo que era la heroína, la cocaína, y al preguntarle cómo comenzaste, cada persona con la cual yo he hablado me ha dicho, yo comencé con marihuana. Así que nosotros necesitamos dejarles saber a nuestros legisladores que si usted ha sido impactado adversamente por esto, que ellos escuchen sus historias, porque esto consideramos que está abriendo una caja de Pandora para nuestros niños, que va a afectar no a mí, sino a las generaciones que van a venir detrás de nosotros.
Bueno, quiero tomar esta oportunidad y darle a todos ustedes las gracias. Abraham, muchas gracias por estar con nosotros hoy, dando tu punto de vista, el por qué nosotros no debemos de legalizar a la marihuana en Connecticut. A doctor Brian, Brian Exeter, consejero de medicinal de marihuana y un farmacéutico, y él dando su punto de vista, el por sí que debemos de legalizar marihuana en Connecticut. Y a todos nosotros que nos han estado escuchando, también les quiero dar las gracias por escuchar. Ojalá que esta sección lo ha educado de una manera u otra, pero por lo menos que si hace que ustedes vayan y hagan una encuesta y averigüen sobre marihuana aquí en Connecticut. Como mencioné, parece, dado que el gobernador quiere que pase, y muchos de los legisladores quiere que la marihuana pase, esa legislación. Por primera vez estamos teniendo la oportunidad de ver de una legislación que va a pasar y cómo en realidad en el mañana va a afectar a nuestra gente, si va a ser en una manera positiva o en una manera negativa. Quiero despedirme de todos ustedes. Esta es Norma Rodríguez Reyes en el show que pasa. Gracias tanto. Le deseo mucho salud, dinero y amor y tiempo para disfrutarlo, y que vivamos 120 años, pero supuesto con buena salud. Hasta la próxima.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I